It's a bull, literally. Good morning. Hey, what's up? This is Brian Kuzmar with Commercial Rare Coins and Precious Metals in beautiful Lauderdale by the Sea. Our weather is just getting nicer and nicer. Check out this fellow here, speaking of bulls, and I'll get to that in a moment. Beautiful day out there. I think it's around 70, low 70s or something like that. Got a different cam up today. This is the live manatee cam. It's one of our springs here. And if you live in Florida, you know exactly who these fellows are. They're huge. They call them sea cows, was the old name for them, and they're literally about the size of cows, and it looks like a giant seal of sorts. Very friendly little fellas. Not really aggressive, although if you get next to a pup and mom's nearby, they will give you a smackdown, and they can't hurt you. They're probably several hundred pounds or more, or 1,000, who knows. Anyway, pretty cool cam. Figured I'd try something different here today. And again, it's the live underwater manatee cam at Blue Spring State Park. I'm not quite sure where that is. I'm imagining most of our springs are up in northern Florida. And oh wow, look at that little happy group of manatees just kind of laying down there enjoying their whatever. Oh boy, okay. Let's move into markets today and see what's happening. And the coin said a bull. I believe it's talking about long term, of course, not the short term. Markets are a little bit down today. Nothing substantial, no major monkey hammering. Sorry about that. Gold's currently sitting at 1862.68, overnight low 1858 and a high of 1877. We'll take a look at the 24-hour market in a moment to see when that happened. 2507 silver currently low at 24.97, a high at 25.42, and platinum at 1080. Low at 1072 and a high of 1104. What we're seeing here, folks, both gold, silver, and platinum, is higher highs and higher lows. Of course, this just plays into what we've spoken about, that we've been in a bull market since 2016. However, most people wouldn't recognize a bull market if it bit them in the ass because they're used to meme stock bull markets, you know, those straight up 45-degree lines that we don't really see in precious metals market. Precious metals markets are usually over a period of time and follow along with the creation of money, you know, the M1 or whatever the money supply is, relationships with oil, relationships with what's the other thing? Well, we can take a look at the charts. In fact, let's kind of just pull up those charts. There's so many relationships with the price of gold. You know what? I digress. We'll get into that a little bit later. Let's take a look at the 24-hour charts right now, and I'll do a quick refresh here. 24-hour gold chart, the same pattern that we've been seeing for a month or more now, which is the London, New York COMEX time. If you take a look here, you'll see that, well, actually last night we did see some up action. Let's see where our close was. This is yesterday, New York, and then going into, well, that's the New York market right there. And New York NYMEX kind of up a little bit, and then the Globex market and these other markets, overnight markets, somewhat down sideways, and it recontinues here till it jumps up quite a bit. I'm not sure if that was a London or Hong Kong market where it does. But again, take a look at the real action occurs during that New York opening. 8:20 in the morning, seems to kind of get its action done by noontime and then flatten out, although a couple times we've seen this week where it's just kind of creeped up over the course of the day as well after this yo-yo kind of action that we've been having for the last few months. I'd be curious, it's kind of like a tug of war between the longs and the shorts here, and maybe the physical problems or problems with actually physical metals, because remember, silver and gold are one of the few markets where real supply and demand is not really a factor per se, especially in your COMEX markets, and a lot of people talk about that, how these markets are highly manipulated by, 4 to 8 big commercial banks, or 4 big commercial banks and some other banks, and manage money on the long side. Ted Butler goes into this quite in depth. I've learned a lot from him. I have to thank him actually for teaching me about the casino, which is COMEX, and the casino owners, which are CME. The CME group is the owners, and the players that the COMEX, you know, the casino caters to, are the large commercial banks that do the short positions. And they don't short it for hedging reasons. They don't short it for any other reasons, because other than the fact that they make a ton of money getting away with manipulating that market to the downside, using a huge amount of money. They have tons of money, folks. The silver market is such a small market. It's just like them. It's like they can't lose. They can't, especially when they have the casino owners, Comex and the CME group, on their side and giving them special favors over the other players at the table, which include you and I and miners and other people. But that's basically what you got going on there, and this is the market it happens in, New York NYMEX right here. So we know there's something going on here. It's pretty easy to see. However, like I said, with the higher highs and the higher lows, we know where this market's heading ultimately, and they can only manipulate this so long. What they've got going on right now is that the true fundamentals of supply and demand are going to kick them right in the ass here pretty shortly, and that's my opinion. Let's take a look at the silver action too. You're going to see the exact same thing where the market is, well, it's kind of a little nut choppy action, 25 and above. But again, get to New York, look what happens. You've got this spike downwards. We've had some spike upwards too at this period. So again, the yo-yo activity on the up and down side is happening in New York. The upside is at the higher highs and higher lows that we're seeing. But it's obvious that these folks have a lot of ammo, and they can continue to fuck with the price of silver and fuck with the price of gold to some point, to where it just gets completely out of their control. And I think that if we continue to see this climb from 25 to 27, that's pretty much going to cause some huge losses and shake out some of these commercial banks and probably the managed long positions as well. Again, that's speculative on my part, and a little bit of what I've learned from reading of Ted Butler. And speaking of Ted Butler, let me just kind of show you. If you're not familiar with him, he's been around for a long time. He's the one that I originally learned from years and years ago, reading his free articles. I forget, by Silver Seek and a bunch of other places that his articles have been published in. And he was one of the first guys that I learned that, that Comex is like a giant casino, and that it's owned by the CME group. The casino is owned by this, that's the casino owners, and how they cater to the whales at the table. And the whales would be the big commercial banks. So this is one of the guys that taught me this stuff. I like reading his reports. He puts out 1 or 2 a week. I can't show them to you because this is a paid report. However, I can highly recommend it to you. They're not really cheap, so if you're just a casual guy, it might not be the kind of thing you want to purchase. You can read a lot of his stuff too, by the way, for free. And let me show you where that is. Ted Butler does. Now, his free archive obviously is older stuff, but man, there's a lot of good stuff to learn here as well. I would recommend that even if you're not going to get a subscription, go to Ted Butler's site here, and where's Butler Research? There's his home page. And go to Butler Research, which is right here, and he's got a free archive. There's a lot of cool reading here. I think today what I'm going to give you is mostly sites to go to and stuff to read, folks. One of the things I always say is that there's 2 ways to feed a person. One way is you can give them a fish and they'll eat for a day, or you can teach them how to fish and they'll eat for life. My purpose is to teach you how to fish. It certainly saves me a lot of time when you come in your store, when you already know what you're when you already know how to fish and you know what you want and you know how to do it. Makes my sales much quicker, much easier. And I always think that people that learn, I learned to fish from my grandfather, literally learned how to fish from my father and my grandfather. Literally, for fishing, real fishing. And you never forget the people that teach you how to fish. So hopefully, maybe my payoff is that you guys will never forget me when it comes to doing business down the road, and you always remember I taught you something. That's for the people that live in my area. Unfortunately, if you don't live in South Florida, I can't deal with you. If you can't come into my store, I can't, not that I can't deal with you, but I'm not set up to do online sales. So I am a brick and mortar store, which brings me to my point. If you don't live in my area and you can't deal with me, I do encourage you to go out there and find local coin stores, local bullion stores, people that have been around, that are in your community, because I'm a big advocate of buying local and spending money local. I think that's really important, especially in these times. The money gets put back in the community. So I can go off on that. Most of you know my opinion on that. I advertise to beat APMEX, JM, SD Bullion. I know I'm saying this a bit early, folks, but I'm done with it now. And as a local store, I can beat the online guys. So again, whatever it is, whether it's tires, whether it's bullion, whether it's jewelry, try to buy local if you can. Even if you have to pay a little bit more, keep that money local. It's important. It gets back to you somehow. Trust me on this. Well, I told you Butler Research, great place. You can read some free stuff here, and I highly recommend it. I highly recommend it if you can bookmark this site and start reading through some of the free stuff. If you like the free stuff enough, go ahead and subscribe to his website. I recommend it. And what else? Hey, by the way, he doesn't know me from Shinola, so I don't get paid anything for this. I don't get a single thing, not even a nod of approval. So, but I give him a nod of approval for his site. Let's take a look at ZH, what's to talk about. Not too much in gold. I'm going to do a quick refresh here just to see if there's anything. And again, not too much with the price of gold. Mostly just news on economic and political stuff. Which all has. The other day I saw someone talking about, I don't like anything to do with politics or economics when I'm listening to people that are talking about precious. I want to hear about his precious metals. But you know what? You can't not talk about politics and economics if you're in the precious metals business, because it all plays hand in hand. When the people that your elective officials start screwing up in so many different ways and boneheaded decisions and things like closures and things like mandates and things like shutting down economies completely over, well, anyway, I'm not going to go into it. You know where I'm going to go with this. This is going to cause the price of gold and silver to go up. It's going to cause currencies to go down. I mean, look at what we've got going on right now. Here's exactly what's going to happen too. I've said it over and over, and I can't stop saying it, and it has to do with politics and economics. Is that we had a major issue after 2008. Okay, they fixed nothing. They fixed nothing in D.C. They fixed nothing. The Federal Reserve didn't fix anything. Central banks didn't fix anything. Just imagine that in 2008. Think of the economy as a patient. Think of the economy as a patient that just had a giant hemorrhaging wound. Okay, and what did the Federal Reserve and what did central banks do? They didn't cure the patient. They just got the patient stabilized with a gauze over the wound to prevent it from bleeding more, and then they realize that there's more holes, so they keep patching the patient up to stop the bleeding. And the money supply was simply the plasma, the blood they pump into the patient. So here's exactly what central banks all over the world and governments have all over the world. They've got a patient that's bleeding out, and they keep putting Band-Aids on this patient, and they keep pumping plasma into the patient. So really nothing's been fixed, folks. The patient, the economy is not healed. So you need to watch things like this right here. You need to watch these people because, well, inevitably we have learned that D.C. screws things up really bad. You can tell by the way they handled the 2020 critter that basically they're going to. In fact, central banks love the 2020 critter. The 2020 closures and the 2020 critter that caused so much grief to a certain segment. Less than 1% of the people, which is really sad. I mean, any percent is bad, but no less. What the what the central banks love about this is that they never fixed the major problem of the economy going to take a giant shit. All right, they've never fixed it. I told you my analogy of a patient. So along comes the 2020 critter, and what are they able to do? Well, officials made some really terrible decisions, but the central banks aren't going to take the blame for that. Officials, politicians will take the blame for that, and they should actually. But no less, I think central banks saw this opportunity, and what a great scapegoat that the 2020 critter. Again, you know what I'm referring to when I say the critter, all right? The one that comes after 18, critter 18. What a wonderful scapegoat that critter 18 is going to make for central banks when this entire economy melts down. Because most folks aren't that, they're clueless when it comes to politics and economics. Which brings me to my original point. If you're into precious metals, why would you be I don't want to see or hear anything about politics. That's foolish because, again, it has a lot to do. if, for example, by some magic wand, we were able to get someone in office that, in DC that could fix everything, fix the economy, get us back to sound money, get the debt down dramatically, even if it was painful to do, even I would consider closing out some of my gold position and my silver position maybe at some point. If I truly believe we had someone that can fix the economy and fix the political system, what do we need gold for? Especially if they could fix the sound money system. I mean, not what do we need gold for, but there's reasons you need to follow this stuff. Nothing good out here. There's a rhino. Amazing bales on Rivian surpasses Volkswagen. Rivian, that's that new car company out there. Don't know much about them, but I'm really surprised when Tesla and these kind of companies are valued more than Ford or Chevy. That just blows my mind. And one of the guys, somebody came out and told Musk or said something to Musk about it mostly being because of coal credits, not coal credits, but carbon credits or something that Elon Musk got from the government. And that's very, very true. But no less, Musk made his fortune by the stupidity of the green people. I shouldn't say that. I do like electric, by the way, and I like solar even more. Nothing good to say about that. Nothing good to say about this. If I don't think we're going to blow up into a war with China, but if we do, there's your black swan event for precious metals right there. And most certainly, that would cause metal prices just to go crazy. Not a lot of people are in precious metals, folks. Even with this high inflation rate out here, even with stocks and bonds kind of doing the yo-yo thing as well, and people not sure where to go, they're not really piling into precious metals in any way, shape, or form. A small percent of money gets into precious metals, and it bumps everything up. So, I mean, we haven't even begun to see any kind of real bond or stock or Wall Street money per se roll into precious metals. I mean, hardly any. And when it does, and it will, things will just go kind of crazy here. Again, it doesn't take much to move these markets. U.S. industrial production rebounds in October. That's good to hear. I'm going to crypto carnage. Oh boy. Well, erases 10% of the global market cap. For you crypto folks out there, I'm not anti-crypto. I've explained this over and over before. Someone can be accused of it. I'm not anti-crypto. I just understand it for what it is. It's a highly speculative and highly volatile market that is almost video game-like to me, some degree. The more you put into it, and if you can get the timing right, and you get people, a lot of people bought into it, and you happen to just get out of it at that time before everyone else gets out, you made money. So it's kind of, I don't even know how to explain it, but again, it's not gold, it's not silver, and for you folks that make money in the crypto, make sure you put some of that money away in gold and silver for sure. Gold and silver is about wealth preservation. And let's move down here. Anybody read this about the removal of the that button or something like that, and it has everything. Well, let's not go into that. That's totally political, and not too much here. Going down here, I'm just kind of waiting for when the stock and bond market finally does really blow up. I mean, we've got to see some big downside. What do you think out there, folks? What's your opinion? Put it in the comment section. You think we're going to see a 20% correction in the Wall Street markets? You think we're going to see a 30% or 10%? What's your opinion? And let's move over to gata.org and see what's going on here. Not too much, but this was a really cool story. Monster 21-pound record gold nugget from Alaska offered for $1 million. What I like is how they describe the check this out. What I like is how they describe the nugget. That's kind of a weird description, is it? It's 90% gold and is the size of a child's head. Never really thought of describing something as a child. I guess when you go to the grocery store, cabbage is about the size of a child's head too, right? Child's head. What a strange description of it by whoever wrote that. Okay. It's out of London, no wonder. They have something about heads. They like to put them on poles out there. So they did in the old days. Maybe that's why they... not too much other to talk about. Some good reading out here. I'd recommend you reading as Newcrest scoops up Titanium gold sector turns focal to the next deal. That's probably got to do with mining companies. The end of super imperialism. Of course, I always like these stories. I'd recommend, again, you must have gata.org on your bookmark bar, and try to read a couple of these articles as well. Today, I just can't read all these things to you folks, and I'm giving you another one here that I like, is Seeking Alpha. Seeking Alpha, I have a subscription to it, of course, and I'm going to use it to other things here as well, so not just simply for the articles. But if I'm correct, you do not need a subscription to read these articles. All you got to do is go to Markets at the top of their page and go to gold and precious metals, and there's some well-written stuff here. I liked this gentleman's, Florian Grooms, I think it is. I've read some of his stuff. Silver Chart Book, Silver the Waiting Game, and Patience Pay. The summary of this article: when left in low, markets have a natural rhythm like a breath, but it becomes substantially more difficult to predict troughs and peaks when the market is meddled with, e.g., hey, interestingly enough, politicians, and I don't know if he mentions it, but meddled with by manipulative commercial banks. The currency discrepancy makes silver more desirable play. Better risk-reward ratio. The difference will work like a loaded spring. Once released, silver will outperform gold by a multiple. This is true. I've also felt this. We've already seen gold hit its all-time high, once, twice, 3 times, is it? Or is it twice? 3 times, I believe. Yeah, 3 times, all right? But silver has only hit its all-time high twice, and the last time was 2012. It was on its way to go there before the big commercial banks and COMEX monkey hammered it, or COMEX allowed it to be monkey hammered down. So in 2012, but we're heading there again because why? Well, for a long time here with silver, folks, the tail has been wagging the dog, and who is the tail? The tail is the COMEX banks. The tail is the manipulators out there. And what is the dog? The dog is the physical situation and the fundamentals of silver. You know, real supply and demand. And pretty soon here, the dog, you know, the 100-pound dog is going to be wagging the 2-pound tail again, and that dog is going to be the physical, you know, the laws of supply and demand with the physical supply of silver, and that's my opinion here. Good articles, by the way, in Seeking Alpha. Highly recommend you read it. He's got a couple good articles here too on gold miners. Good stuff out here, folks. And again, my point here is not to be a reading service for you, even though I do read some of the articles that I find interesting myself, and if I have time. But I'd like to point these things out to you. I want to teach you how to fish, and I want you to be able to catch the big ones yourself. So reading this stuff is certainly going to help you. Another great reading site is American Institute for Economic Research. This is kind of interesting for you WSS people. It talks the stories from a decentralized short squeeze, talks about the GameStop saga, and more or less you can kind of apply this to the Wall Street silver stuff as well. But good website, recommend that you read this as well. Not a single point view narrative like you see with corporate media, who hands you one viewpoint and makes fun of all the others or doesn't even talk about them. I like different viewpoints, different opinions, and I think that you're smarter for listening to different opinions. Again, you can learn a lot from people you disagree with, folks. You can even learn a lot from people you disagree with for a couple reasons. Number one, maybe they're right, and you should always consider that someone may be right and go out and do some fact checking yourself. The second thing is maybe they're right, and you're going to check, and you do find more things that are factual in your favor as well that you weren't aware of, that makes your strengthen your argument even better, and your debate skills better. Well, let me take a look at yesterday's video. If you don't hold it, you don't own it. I 100% believe that. This is all about this. I was speaking basically about third-party risk, and that when you own ETFs, even the most well-intentioned ETFs like Sprott, there's still third-party risk. Someone asked me a question here, and I'm going to answer that. Charles Dumont said something, but meanwhile, I just go down to the bottom page here and see if there's. I'd like to thank everybody here that watches my videos. And by the way, make sure you hit that. Oh, I think I made it too big. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button, please. I appreciate that. So for all you folks that like yesterday's video, I showed the lighthouse at the beginning. It's called a Fresnel Lens. Fresnel lenses. Pretty cool. If you missed yesterday's video, it's at the start of the page. I did my first, I did the live shot of the Hillsborough inlet cam. And the inlet has a lighthouse there that has one of the original old crystal lenses. It's called a Fresnel lens. I didn't know that. Thank you, Deeptail, for explaining that to me. I went and looked a little more about Fresnel lens and found out that this is one of the largest ones in the state of Florida, considered a size number 2 or something like that. And one of 4 or 5 still in the state of Florida. Most everything's been replaced with LED and digital stuff. last of the old school lighthouses right here in our own town. Pretty cool stuff. Silver Rose, thank you. Jeremy, Silver Love and Lou, and you as well, Joey. Russ Reina, fire tender, asked me, you got paid by Elemental, but how much did you lose, percentage? I really can't go into anything loss. I lost some hair. I lost some sleep. I lost an appetite. Let's see. And what else did I lose? I didn't, and monetarily, not a lot. I lost the availability of money, which is a loss. I lost, so pretty much I can say that I got most all of it back, except some of the grief that went into it, and also some money I spent on attorneys. So that's about all I can say right there. And you asked, considering the fluctuating prices over time, was your, okay. Yeah, I think I pretty much explained it. Hey, Russ, good question, and I appreciate you watching. Thanks. And you as well, sir, and you keep up the good work too. Thank you, PS and Joey. Yep, yeah, he's developing some kind of ATM card. Here's the interesting about this. This is not authorized in the United States, and the United States would consider his company, that company he's running, a what was it, a banking financial institution of some sort, and he really is. But they're not regulated by the SEC or something like that. So you got to read more into that. It's kind of interesting. But I like Andrew McGuire. I just can't imagine him being involved in anything bad. But again, third-party risk. If someone takes him down, he's going to, not him, but somebody takes that company down, that company is going to take the customers down with it. I think you're correct there, D Live, and thank you, VG. I thought my explanation of yesterday of counterparty risk was pretty good myself. Thanks for watching, and thanks for commenting as well. James says he's got one for us stackers. He never buys high dollar premium coins, but he saw a coin he couldn't live without. Well, that's cool, man. Virgin Islands, you paid the crazy price of $300. That's all right. I know I kind of rag on people that continually buy over premium price stuff. And I don't rag on them because I don't like them. I'm just trying to get them to save money and make them more money. You know what I mean? Put more ounces in their pocket. And I think sometimes, there's a little cognitive, what is it, dissonance or something like that involved with that. Some people think I'm insulting the product and insulting what they did, but no, I'm not. What I'm trying to do is get people to learn to put more product in there, more silver ounces, not more premium in their pocket. Thanks for watching, James. I appreciate that. Acacia says, I'm not in drama and I have to wonder how much of my own stack from questionable sources or maybe counterfeit. If you're buying from reputable sources, then you're not, you got no issue there. I mean, good dealers know what they're looking at, especially good local coin stores and good local dealers that have been in the business a long time. They can tell just by looking. So, the probability of you having something from questionable sources, well, think about this. What is questionable sources? Gold, especially in gold, almost all gold held, maybe the gold in your ring, has been from questionable sources, has been probably robbed, stolen from some empire, some person, lots of blood in every probably piece of gold you own, and have fought over gold. Countries, empires have fought over gold. So, this gold has blood on it for sure from centuries ago, all right? People have coveted it as money. And that tells you how powerful gold is and how long it's been around, and the fact that people have gone to war over it and still would, all right? Robert, hey, thanks for watching. Robert says, true. Thank you, Robert. Nice to see you there. Thanks for commenting. And let me see here. If your metals is someone else is involved with someone, yep, that's kind of what we were talking about yesterday. Absolutely true, Mr. Kennedy. Bitcoin will be useless in the coming cyber pandemic where only authorized users will be allowed in that on the cell system. Interesting you mentioned that. I don't know if that's true, but an interesting conspiracy, and I don't mean conspiracy in a bad way. Conspiracies can be very true as well, and perhaps this one might be. Thanks for watching, Robert. I appreciate that, and that's also true. Mr. Dumont watched my video yesterday, and I appreciate that, Charles. Much of my IRA sets is in precious metals, gold and silver, by a highly regulated trust company with my metal locked up in a highly regulated depository. And my assets are insured by Lloyd's in London. They have an IRA approved bars. And yeah, I agree with that. And one of the things, I don't want anyone to think, that again, that I hate the ETFs and that I don't respect Sprott and that I don't respect some of these guys are doing similar things like that. Even SLV, I don't want people to think I hate those things. However, as I said, I don't hate them either. They have their place, and I said that yesterday. If you have an IRA, kind of like what I did with my Sprott, I bought Sprott when Sprott first came out, stuck it in an IRA. My big mistake was not watching it all these years because it's worth half now, because the fees ate up my my IRA that I had. Literally, the fees did eat it up. It wasn't Sprott's fault. I just didn't pay attention, stuck it there, and left it there for 10 years with barely taking a look at it. My fault, not Sprott's. Something I didn't occur to me, though, is that I was going to incur fees with the Sprott fund and the SLV fund and whoever, Kinesis or whoever, and all these funds, all right, in my IRA. I just didn't pay attention to it. It was my fault. So I can't blame them for that, but the nice thing about gold and silver is if I stuck gold and silver in my safe for the same amount of time, I'd still have the same amount of ounces, or the same amount of money, and more, actually, more with the price of silver where it's at. With my IRA account and what I did with Sprott and just left the stuff in there and didn't pay attention. Again, I don't think any ETFs are good for the long term because you're going to get eaten up with fees, okay? And it's proof of what I did. So anyways, if you have to have it, though, I like IRAs on a shorter term basis. I really do. I think that's probably a good place to put your money is in a silver IRA, or put your money in silver in an IRA somewhere, ETF of some sort. So not against it totally. If you got to have an IRA and you want precious metals, I think it's a good idea, but do watch it, Charles. Watch those fees and make sure what happened to me doesn't happen to you. Chris says, what do you suggest if you had an opportunity to get out of 401k but will have penalties if you don't roll into something but want precious metals in your... Chris, you know what, that's a bad question to ask me. I am not a financial advisor. I like gold and silver and precious metals. I don't own a 401k, and as you can tell, my IRA pretty much went to shit because of my own fault. Not following it, not understanding that even with the best ETFs out there, that you can get eaten up with fees. Not to mention third-party risk, as I mentioned yesterday. Another thing, Charles, you had said that, even though people forget about, remember Corazon, the governor of New Jersey or something, at one time governor, what company was that in New Jersey that who was involved with? Well, the truth of the matter is, when it comes to bankruptcy courts, they don't understand the word allocated, okay? So when that company went down, people had allocated silver bars with the serial numbers were their bars being stored by that particular group. They lost them. They just completely lost them. The bankruptcy court says, well, we don't recognize allocations. So trust me, man. Get in line when one of these companies goes down with your stuff, because that's exactly what you're going to have to do is get in line and hope that you're insured somehow. Again, there's no substitute, Charles, for having that gold and silver in your own hand. However, if you are forced to have an IRA or something like that, then why not? But watch those fees. Hey, that's really about it. Appreciate everyone watching. I think we're going to close it with that. Please hit that share and like and save button and all that good stuff. Again, appreciate all you folks watching. This is Brian Kuzmar with Commercial Rare Coins and Precious Metals in beautiful Lauderdale by the Sea. Call me anytime between 10 and 4, Mondays through Fridays if you live in South Florida or you happen to be in South Florida. We are brick and mortar only. We do no online business or shipping. So again, if you don't live in my area, I highly encourage you to find a local dealer and keep your money local. Well, that's it, folks. Have yourself a great day. Look forward to talking to you tomorrow, and see you then. Bye now.